So, what is your default mode? What is that sweet spot that you default to, that you go to when things are going great or when things are not going so great? What do you default? Where do you go? Do you get optimistic or do you get pessimistic? Now, I'm not just saying when something happens. I'm saying what is your normal default mode and what is your default mode when something happens? Well, listen, most people never, ever, ever think about it. And really, why should we? I'll tell you why you should. Because your default mode, and when I say mode, I mean the feelings that you get, your disposition, if you will, the kind of person that you are, will determine the quality of your life. And I know that's a bold statement, but it truly is. And I'm sure you can see that if you're an optimistic person and you're looking at things that are great and you're going through life, that when anything happens, it's just like whatever's next, whatever, when things are good or when things are bad, then you can see that there's going to be emotion attached to that default. There's going to be a behavior attached to that default emotion. And from that behavior, you're either going to do something or you're not going to do something. You're either going to figure something out or you're not going to figure something out. You're either going to sit on your ass and not do anything, or you're going to get up and go to the gym and work out, or eat, the best food or whatever. You're going to take care of yourself so that you become more wealthy, healthy, happy, and financially abundant. Well, here's the great news. First off, not only am I going to talk about what it is, but I'm going to show you what you can do so you can condition yourself so that you automatically default to a certain disposition, if you will, a certain mode, if you will. And when I say automatically, that's so critical. So you don't have to think about it and go, I caught myself, because oftentimes it's already too late. We've been in that mode for far too long. And so I'm going to start off by saying, what is a default? A default is just simply your normal way of being when something happens. Your reaction to the universe, the world around you. Your reaction to what's going on around you, consciously and unconsciously. And what I mean by that is, listen, there's a ton of things going on all around you that you're not even thinking about. The air conditioner, the noise that the air conditioner is making, the breathing of the dog. There's all kinds of sounds that are going on. There's all kinds of visuals, there are things going on. And our brain is designed to only choose just 2 or 3, maybe 5 of those things just to deal with it at one time, and really only one thing at one time. The rest of it goes on automatic pilot. It really does. We don't think about those things until we have to do something about them, or we've conditioned ourselves to focus on that. And so one of the things that you can look, and by the way, there's 2 different types of defaults that we're going to talk about here. The first one is that I call RDE, and that stands for regular or resting default of emotion. And what that means is when things are okay, when things are normal, or you're regular, or you're resting, or whatever, and things are just, you're normal, that you go through life without really thinking about what's going on over here, what's going on. You're going through life unconsciously. And you're not even thinking about anything. You're not really stressed about anything. It's okay. What do you default to? Believe me, you might say to yourself, well, Joseph, I would default to being optimistic. Well, not necessarily. And a good test to be able to see that, to do that, is this. I've done this to myself, and I suggest you do it as well. And that is to take your cell phone and set it on a tripod, if you got one for, somewhere, and just put it in your office or wherever you spend your day, wherever you spend most of your day, and wherever it is, and just film yourself for a little while. It will absolutely blow you away how you act. And what I mean by that is, after a few minutes, first off, you'll be conscious that it's running, and you're going to be like this and everything. But after a while, you're going to let it go. You're going to forget about it. And then all of a sudden, you're going to notice what you do. What is your physiology like? Are your shoulders up? Is your chest out? Or are you standing in a great posture? Or are you sitting in a chair slumped over like that? Do you have what I call RBF? I don't just call it that. Or RHF, resting B face. You know what the B is. Or resting happy face. Well, here's a challenge with that. Because, by the way, I've done it here in my house. I've got security cameras all over the place, and there's one in my office, and it was astounding, because what I did was I've done it on the cell phone as well, is as I look at it, I remember looking at it some time ago and looking at it and going, wow, is that really what I'm like? Is that really what I'm like when I'm doing this behavior? And the behavior that I was most of the times either on my cell phone or on my computer, on my laptop. And I'm not saying this to brag or to boast. And I am saying this because I always talk about that I don't teach theory. And what that means is I don't teach anything that I don't do myself, and I haven't gotten results for myself, and I haven't gotten results for hundreds and thousands and even millions of people now. And so because I've been doing what I'm going to share with you to do, I am happy to report that my mode is not just optimistic. When I look at myself, and by the way, let me back up for a second. Most of the time, and a lot of people have a challenge with doing this exercise. You know why? Because they say, oh, well, I can't give my phone up for an hour or 2 hours. I need to have that thing. And here's the problem with that. We have most people, most of the world now has given control of their emotions, has given control of their modes, has given control of their default to their screens. That's right. Whether it is your cell phone, whether it is your laptop or your computer or television, Netflix, or so on and so forth, most of us are unconscious to what's going on. If you don't believe me, go anywhere right now and notice what people are. I don't have another phone down here, but people are sitting there and their heads are down like this and they're looking at their phones and they're scrolling. And the look on their faces is just this side of RBF, resting B face. At the very least, it is apathetic. It's just like, what is that word? Meh. It's just like everything. And this is the most amazing, when you're looking at your phone, most of it don't think about it. It's the most amazing piece of equipment in the history of mankind that every human being has. There's everything on there. There's the internet, which means that you have access to 90% of all the information since the dawn of time right there on your phone. You got something to entertain you. You got something to go on. And most of us are just looking at it like this. It will blow you away when you see that. And so I filmed myself and I took a look at it. And again, I'm saying this because I want you to know that what I'm about to teach you just works. I've been doing it for a long time. If you notice me on my phone, look at the expression that's on my face. And remember, the expression on your face will determine the chemicals that your body is releasing and how you will feel. And how you will feel will determine what you do or what you won't do and the results that you'll get. And so when I was looking at myself on that, and it's going to blow you away when you do this, this is what I was like. Even as I was scrolling through, my eyebrows were up, my posture was up, I was breathing, and it was a couple times I had a big smile on my face as I was doing this. There were a couple times a phone call came in, and I answered the phone, and I was just watching myself. And again, I feel a little arrogant as I'm saying this, but I'm saying this because I want you to know that you can condition yourself to be that way as well. You see, I consider myself a very wealthy man. I'm very healthy. I'm very happy, and I'm very financially abundant. But it doesn't mean bad things don't happen to me, because there's the second one. Because remember what I said, there's RDE, which is resting or regular default of emotion. And then there's SDE, which is stress default of emotion. When stuff happens, when something shows up that you don't want to do, something that shows up that's negative, that's unexpected, when something shows up that's going to require you to step outside your comfort zone, whether it's really big, something drastic, or something that's very small, whether it happens over and over again, or whether it happens once or twice, what is the default that you're in? And that's the one that most of us need. Well, I shouldn't say that need the most work on, because we need work on both of them, because your RDE will determine or greatly influence your SDE, stress. And what that means is if you're like come from here, then guess what? When something happens, it doesn't take. If you're coming from here and you're excited and something stress happens, then you're already closer to being optimistic versus then when you're pessimistic or you're in that mode where you're apathetic. When something happens, it's a quicker road to go, oh, screw it, damn it, no, I don't want to do this. And you go into pessimism. And from pessimism, that kicks into procrastination and hesitation and fear of failure and fear of success and self-doubt and self-loathing and imposter syndrome and all of those things. And it spirals. And let's just say it cascades, or it snowballs into that place where we go. And I called it a sweet spot, where most of us just go, screw it. And then we have a behavior attached to it. When stress gets high, and if we have not worked on ourselves, if we have not conditioned ourselves to default to a place of optimism, and remember, optimism means options. of looking what's possible, then guess what we will do? That's pain, and our entire nervous system is designed to move away from pain. So what do? We default to a behavior of smoking, drinking, watching television, or doing something else. I'm sure you can see by now that this is something that, if you think about it, if you condition yourself, well, wait a minute, let me condition myself so that I'm most of the time optimistic. And again, I'm not talking about optimism as being, every cloud is a silver lining and just looking at the great stuff and everything, la-di-da. I'm just talking, like I said, it's options, looking at the options of things. And so if you've conditioned yourself to do that, then guess what? When it comes time to doing your business, when it comes time to doing anything that is going to require you to put some effort into, then because you're already most of the way there as your default, you're going to probably step up much, much quicker. And so how do we do that? And what do we do about it? And so the first thing is, remember, in all of this stuff that I talk about, observation and acknowledgement and awareness is always the first step. If you work with me, I'm always going to ask you this question: what do you want? Most people don't know what they want. So we're going to answer that here in a second, because what you want is to be optimistic. You want to have a default of optimism. Remember, options of opportunity that you want to look at. Eyebrows up as much as you can with good posture and all of those things. That's what you want. But here's the second question I'm going to ask you. What stops you? What keeps you from getting there? Where are you now? Is the answer to that question. In other words, what do you normally do? Because if you show me that video and I'll say, okay, well, I'm going to show you what to do right now. All I got to do is look at you in your default mode and I can tell you what to do. And it's so unbelievably simple. It's so simple that most people won't do it. And most people can think, it's not that easy. It can't change like that. Well, yes, it can. Yes, it can. And by the way, I should tell you, I was not always this optimistic. I was not always this healthy. I was not always this happy. I was not always financially abundant. As a matter of fact, I was the antithesis of all of those things. I was homeless, depressed, and suicidal. Homeless means I was absolutely broke. I was unhealthy, colds and flus and everything all the time. I was unhealthy in the way that my body was. I was tired, and it was just the worst. And I got to change it fairly quickly. And if I knew what I know now back then, I'd have changed it very, very quickly, because it took me a few years to get out of it. But the fundamentals, the principles are still there, and you can use them. And that is this. Two things. Number one, maybe you've heard me talk about it before, and that is human physics. Physics is just the study of the consequences, the cause and effect of movement. Now that's a really, really basic definition of what it is. But I want you to look at, like, everything moves. And when it moves, that means it's a physical movement. And from that physical movement, there's always going to be a result. There's always going to be an effect. Einstein said for every action, there's going to be an equal or greater reaction. If you pull the rope on this end, it's going to move on the other end. If you take a deep breath, that's physical, your brain's going to get more oxygen. If you smile, your brain is going to release dopamine. If you frown, it's going to release cortisol. Dopamine makes you feel good, cortisol makes you feel bad. It's that simple. But here's the human physics that I want you to focus on, if you will. And that is this. Undeniably, whatever a human being does, over and over again, they will get better at. Don't think of anything else. Just use that as wait a minute. That's evidence that I can do anything and get better at it, including default to a more optimistic emotion and behavior that's attached to it. If you just do what I'm going to tell you over and over again, it's physics will step in and take over, and this will work. And so awareness is always the first step. Now, you might not do the exercise that I encourage you to do, which is to video yourself, but just think about it. And here's another thing. Ask people, okay, what mode do you think I'm normally in? And don't give them suggestions. They're going to go, well, you seem like you're, a little stressed most of the time. Or they're going to say, you seem like a happy person, or whatever. But the important thing is, what do you observe about yourself? Think about through your day. Most people never do that. They never take the time and go, okay, well, here was my day. Here's how I was. Every night you should be able to do that. Take a look at your day and say, well, here's what I did. Here's where I was. And then you know where you are. And then you can do something about it. And so if you notice that, first off, if you notice that, you know what, I'm optimistic most of the time. I'm Joseph, my eyebrows are up all the time. I look at the absolute best and so on and so forth. Well, then here's what you do. Pat yourself on the back, reward yourself, give yourself credit, reward yourself, praise yourself, because that praise will make you do it more. Remember, your brain is always going to go, whenever there's dopamine release, whenever there's any kind of joy going on, your brain is going to go, what just happened? Let's do it again. And so when you praise yourself, if you are that way, then that's what makes you do it again. But if you aren't, here's what you do. Is you use you probably heard me dozens of times say this. Use technology to grow yourself personally. Use your phone to remind you to check in, to wake up. Set that alarm. Tell Siri to make an alarm in an hour. And every hour when it goes off, catch yourself. See how you're sitting. Because remember what I said, your physiology, your physics of your body will determine what's going on inside of you. Most people, you're going to find yourself slumped over, especially if you're on your phone all the time or you're on your computer. Most people don't sit on their computer like this. Most people sit at their computer or their phone, and I go to airports all the time. Look in the airport. Look at a store when everybody's sitting around. I remember one day a while ago, this was before COVID, I went to a restaurant. A friend of mine said, meet me at this restaurant. I was waiting for her to show up. And it was a beautiful day. As a matter of fact, it was one of the very first days of spring. Now, I'm in Southern California, and it was absolutely gorgeous. But it hadn't been up until then. It wasn't, the weather wasn't so great. But this is like the very first really great day. The sun was out. Birds were chirping. There was trees. There was everything all around. And I looked around, and 90% of the people that were sitting, because this restaurant, you had to wait outside, for your name to be called and everything. Everybody's sitting there with their phone like this. And even if they're standing there, they're looking at their phone like this, slumped over like this, and they got that RBF on their faces. As soon as your brain goes like this, remember, your body is releasing what's called cortisol, which is the stress hormone. And then when we went in the restaurant, it was even sadder. And I said to my friend, look around. And there maybe were one or two people talking, but most people weren't. They were eating their dinner, and here's how they were eating their dinner. I'm going to use this as a cell phone. They were eating their dinner, looking at their cell phone. Every once in a while, they'd put it down, they'd talk to each other. They weren't looking at each other, and most of them were not happy. And this is what I'm talking about. What is your day like? And so when that alarm goes off, catch yourself and change your physical body. Stop, and in the moment, and I'm not telling you got to go, okay, what's great about this? What's great? You can do that stuff, but just stop, throw your shoulders back, take a deep breath into your tummy like this, and put a smile on your face and go, yes, I caught myself. I caught myself. If you're anything other than that, when you catch yourself, if you're anything other than shoulders back, good posture, that kind of thing, whether you're sitting or whatever, then you got to change it. Change it in that moment. Oh, I caught myself. And then pat yourself on the back and then praise yourself. Why? Because your nervous system is going to go, what just happened? Oh, I caught myself having RBF. I caught myself being, in a default mode that was not serving me. Catch yourself, throw your shoulders back, pat yourself on your back, and guess what's going to happen? Automatically, you're going to start to do that. Automatically, you're going to find yourself, well, why do I feel so good? Why do I feel so good? Here's what I'm going to say. You know what most people have relied on to get themselves in anything other than a pessimistic or anything other than an RBF? Coffee and stimulants. Coffee and stimulants. I'm not telling you you don't have to take it, but you should not have to take that. You should not have to do that. This is going to get you to automatic, because remember in the beginning, I said, what is it? Now we know what it is. It is that disposition that you default to, that optimism or that pessimism that you default to when something is great and when something is regular or when things are stressed. And what can you do about it? You got to catch yourself. You got to catch yourself. And even if you don't have the time or have the equipment or even you don't want to do it, film yourself, because a lot of people don't like to see themselves on film. Just think about what you are. And then set that alarm. And when you catch yourself, stop, take a deep breath, put a smile on your face and go, I caught myself. This is great. Pat yourself on the back, praise yourself, and what'll happen, dopamine release, your brain is going to say, I want some more of that. And it'll start to do it automatically. Because remember, that was the fourth thing. I said that you want to have it so that it defaults automatically to your best default. And the more you start to have it, then the more you will do, because there will be a behavior that's attached to it. And the behavior, I promise you, is going to be, let's just say, more conducive to what you want, your dreams, goals, and desires than not. Then when you lay your head on the pillow every night, take back a look back and go, I'm a badass. So I hope this is helpful to you. Remember, life is exactly what you dare to make it. And thank you so much for always coming here and listening to me and allowing me to share with you things that my mentors have shared with me and some of the experiences that I've had through life. The only thing that I ask is that you do this. Two things. Number one, you take it, use it, get a result for yourself. And then number two, teach it to other people. You don't have to give me credit for it, just teach it to other people, because that's how we're going to change the world. Lastly, I'm going to say this. Life is exactly what you dare to make it, and fortune favors the bold. So boldly step up and dare to make your life magnificent. I love you, and I'll see you at the top. I'm out.